How is everyone doing today? Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you're doing well. You know what? Wrong title. Wrong title. We got to update these titles. 1 second. All right. Titles are updated. Welcome everyone to my high noon lunch hour news segment. I appreciate you all joining me. And yeah, we got quite a bit to talk about. We're not even going to cover the clouds because it's easy enough to condense what happens in those into, once every 2 weeks. So I'm trying to remove some sections when there's not a whole lot to talk about. There is just a few topics in the clouds, but there was a lot going on with security. Now, I know last week we did an emergency stream on or we didn't do emergency stream because it happened on Friday, but we had CloudStrike, and there was a lot more stuff that has come out from CrowdStrike. I said CloudStrike, but it was CrowdStrike. Yeah, we got a lot more, but there was actually some other things that I wanted to make sure got attention, because I feel like a lot of people have been looking at this CloudStrike issue, which obviously is a big issue. But there's some things that might actually affect you also. Oh, is there a cloud that had an outage this week that I missed? Not related to CloudStrike? Because if there was, I missed it. I know Azure had outages from CrowdStrike, right? They were spotty for a little while. All right. Well, we can get into the security, and then we can talk about the AI stuff. Let's jump into security. Okay, because there are a couple things here that if you're running in GCP and you're using their functions, you might want to be aware of. So this first one was an article I found from Hacker News called "Experts Expose Confused Function." This is actually one of 2 different functions attacks that are out there that we're going to cover. But if you are running in GCP, which I highly doubt it unless you're forced to for some regulatory reason to be into, then maybe you are. But they do have a tendency of just deleting your account. That being said, if you're using their cloud functions, this is actually a pretty big deal. The end attack actually gives them their build service account, giving them access to all of your storage and other things like that. So this is something to be aware of as well. Now they have patched it, but you should actually also check your logs, make sure nothing fishy has gone on. So just something to be aware of. That being said, that brings us to chaining 3 bugs to access all your ServiceNow data. If you're using ServiceNow, I don't know if you are or not, there were 3 bugs that would allow your attacker to basically take over it wouldn't allow them to take over, it would just allow them to access all of your data. So they could get all of your data in your ServiceNow. So again, I'm not going to dive into this one. I kind of want to, when I'm done moving, I actually would like to start taking some of the time to access these, or not access them, but actually go over them a little bit more in detail, because I think there's a lot that we can learn. This one was a really good write-up. I read through it briefly, but it was actually a pretty good write-up. So I actually highly recommend just reading this one, because I learned some stuff while doing it. So, that's something I'm going to put a note in that we're going to have to do in the future. What's up? All right. So, anyways, I do recommend reading this one. You know what? We can put this in our for save for later to learn. You know, maybe we need like a review. I'm not sure. We're gonna put it here for right now. Yeah. All right. All right. So yeah, anyways, if you're in ServiceNow, you should actually read up on the write-up they did to make sure that you're not vulnerable to it. Okay. Hackers abuse Cloudflare Warp to hijack cloud services. If you're using Cloudflare and you're using Warp, this was a serious issue. It has been patched at this point, but it was a way that they abused DNS. Again, just bringing it up because these are things that you guys actually use, but you have to use both. So you have to be using both. This is where it gets really interesting. If nobody knows what KnowBe4 is, KnowBe4 is this huge consulting agency that basically helps companies migrate security, and they do like security training and education. So if you worked at a corporation in America, most likely you've gone through some of their training on how not to get ripped off, and how to spot an email that is phishing, like how to spot a phishing email and whatnot. So this is actually really bad. This is like egg on their face. I don't know if you guys know that saying, but this is actually a really big deal because basically they fell for the things that they train people not to fall for. My Twitch chat bot needs something to keep track of bot accounts selling viewers. So this is actually a pretty big deal because basically a North Korean hacker got hired by the firm. So it's kind of funny how they were actually eventually caught because like they loaded malware on their machine. So they did a good job of catching it. But the fact that it got to them sending them a laptop and everything, it was pretty rough. It was pretty rough. The security is hard. Security is absolutely hard. And you know what? Honestly, the speed at which they caught this shows that they had a lot of stuff in place, right? Because yes, they did hire a fake worker, but maybe the more important part is we're talking about, you know, automatically detecting malware being loaded. The AI I don't know how this worked, but the AI filtered photo, meanwhile, was flagged by the company's endpoint detection and response team. I'm wondering if it was, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what it flagged on. So yeah, anyways. I don't know. I think it was to hide his identity, right? He didn't want to use his photo and he couldn't use a stock photo, right? Because if you use a stock photo, then that's also, you can detect the stock photo. I'm guessing that this was close enough that it detected it as a stock photo because enough matched, right? So I'm guessing that's what happened, where it didn't detect it as a real photo. That's my assumption. All right. Dan Lornick posted this. So if you guys don't know who Dan Lornick is, he is the CTO or CEO. I think it's CTO. Fairly positive CTO. But anyways, he does the chain guard. And he called this out, which was really cool because we had all missed it. JFrog found a leaked token that basically would have taken out the entire Python ecosystem because it was a leaked token for the PyPy team. So a lot of people in Python use PyPy, and yeah, so I think the big takeaway here was we really need to stop using, whenever and if possible, always, long-lived tokens. It's better for short-lived tokens. And I mean, that's I think his takeaway is too. They've actually built some stuff for GitHub that allows you to use short-lived tokens. If we need a video reviewing those, we should do it because it's pretty awesome. And, you know, the end of the story is tokens do get leaked eventually. So I just want to call that out. It's a little bit of news. We'll talk a little bit about CloudStrike. CloudStrike to vendors, sorry for the global tech outage. Here's $10 Uber Eats. Funny thing is, a lot of people were even having a hard time redeeming the $10 Uber Eats. Yeah, this was a disaster. This was an unmitigated disaster. Now, I said from the very start that this was a CloudStrike issue, but because it was a Windows bug, Microsoft had the ability to actually, and I said this on Friday, they had the ability to make it not a bug, right? Again, not trying to pass the blame off of CloudStrike. I'm just saying they have done the same thing with GPUs and any of the other pieces of hardware where Windows has gotten more stable is because Windows handles these things. And what happened? Microsoft released a Windows tool to fix the thing. Like I said, again, not saying that it was Windows' fault. That's not what I'm saying. 100% CrowdStrike's fault. But Microsoft could make Windows less susceptible to these types of things. And my point, I rest my case. That's what Microsoft did. So, you know, I don't have to say any more. I was right. As usual, you guys should get used to it. All right, there was an interesting piece of research led by the Binghamton University. I don't know how to pronounce it. I thought it was in Europe. It's actually in New York, so whatever. That correlates mass layoffs and data breaches as being slightly connected. Now, I actually disagreed with why they think that. So they said disgruntled employees face added stress in their job insecurity. I don't know that it's actually this. I actually think, I have talked about this before, where it's this whole... Oops, here we go. It's this whole thing. If you have this security team, and let's say you lay off half of them, or sometimes more, because a lot of times they lay off security teams. Well, one, you have half the security people doing half of the work. The other thing is you as the CEO or whoever say security is not important. Security isn't important. And you can actually see that Microsoft has taken the opposite of this. They literally tie compensation at this point to security. Now, we'll see how that plays out, but that is them saying security, that's the CEO saying security is important. It's of the utmost important. And the thing is, when people lay off, another thing that happens when people lay off, even if it's not the security team, you have this team here, and they lay off, and they become this team here. Most of the time, when I've seen layoffs, they want you to produce the same amount of stuff. What does that mean? It means you're more overworked. It means that if you're not more overworked, you're doing sloppier or lazier coding because you're just trying to get stuff out the door. You're being less precise. And to maintain that same velocity, which means something suffers, and it means security suffers. Unless if you have people pushing for that, it's going to suffer. So I disagreed a little bit about why they thought that this. So there is this correlation. I just kind of come up with a different reason why that might be, but it's interesting anyways. Right, Future Highway. I don't see security is for nerds. Thank you, Togglebit. How does anyone run that tool? You mean this one? I'm assuming that you run it at boot, right? Like you do like you boot in like safe mode, right? That would be my guess is you boot in safe mode, which isn't going to load their things, right? I didn't look into that, but that was my assumption because it was a corrupted file, and as long as you don't load that corrupted file, you'll be fine. Also, welcome, Togglebit. It's good to see you. Sounds like they have a remote option as well. Yeah. Using the Windows PE. I'm assuming this is safe boot. I don't know enough about Windows to really comment on that, but I'm assuming that's safe boot. Job security. Oh, not for yeah. Anyways. All right. There was a recent ERP data breach. So if this was a particularly bad one because it was, again, another unprotected database. So it goes into, your databases shouldn't be exposed to the internet. It's a pretty easy one, but you should try to go and check if you were affected by it. And lastly, for security, I know I'm going kind of quickly. We only have an hour, and there was a lot of news to cover, so I'm just trying to run through these. There was thousands of potential vulnerabilities in GitHub workflows. I wanted to talk about this because I think this is an interesting one that people don't talk about a whole lot. And I have actually reached out to the people at ChainGuard because I would like to have, you can help social pressure them into this. I would like to do a security day like I did a database day. And I would like one or two of the topics being securing your GitHub workflows. Because I think that is something people don't understand. They don't understand how and when their workflows can be triggered, what their workflows have access to, who can modify that code, etc. And so that's actually one of the things that I would love to do on Security Day. I know we have some security specialists. I don't know if you're in chat right now, but if you are and you're wanting to talk and you have expertise in this, that's one of the things I would love to have lined up for Security Day. Did I see this Stack Overflow survey for 2024? I did. Unfortunately, I only have my lunch break today for the news, and we're not going to have time to cover it. But tomorrow, on my Saturday stream, we are going to cover it. Russell actually made a fantastic summary. It's humorous too, but a fantastic summary of it in the Discord under the random channel. So if you're wanting to understand it a little bit at a high level, but we're going to cover it at a high level tomorrow anyways. Did you guys see anything else in security that you should know? I know I went through quite a few things. It took us 27 minutes to get through it, and I was rushing. Apollo, I've only scanned the Stack Overflow survey. I haven't done a deep dive. I'm going to try to get that done tonight so that I'm prepared to talk about it tomorrow. All right, so let's jump into AI. There's a ton of stuff that happened in AI this last week. The battle for AI was kind of heating up. But before we start with the battle for AI, we're going to start with something I have been predicting for a while. You guys know that I am almost never wrong when I'm right. I'm almost never wrong when I'm right. And I have said that this is going to be AI. This right here. So basically, it's going to ramp up, it's going to crash, and then we're going to find out that it's good for like chatbots and a few other things. And this is what it's going to get used for. That's kind of been my prediction. Is it's going to be an everything fixes everything tool, just like the blockchain was, just like whatever new hype thing was. And then we're going to realize that, well, there's some stuff that it does really well. Repetitive tasks, some data analysts, analytics. I did tell you to invest in Merit Coin. Merit Coin is still a fantastic choice. Second coin that I would tell you to is the Null coin. Those two are the best coins, honestly. Those are the only ones that aren't scams. Trust me on this one. Invest your life savings today. And I am joking, by the way. I am 100% joking. Do not do that. Okay, so let's move on. 77% of employees report AI has increased workloads and hampered productivity. Another study. AI is actually making workers less productive. I have run the AI games consistently every 6 to 8 months, and at the end of August, we're going to be running the AI summer games again. I also try it on stream. A lot of the times you guys have seen me use it. This is not me talking from a place where I haven't used it. I have used it. We try to coerce it to doing useful things, and it wastes so much of my time. It wastes a lot of time. Like I said, I can't even look you straight in the face and say that it's worth the $19.99 that GitHub is asking for you to pay to use it. I haven't been able to make that claim to anybody. It's just not worth it. So, anyways, I know this is partly me feeling vindicated for claims that I have made with no research, and it's nice to have some research done by smarter people than myself to support my claims. I get it. But yeah, we're going to have the AI games later this month. Not this month, in August. And it's going to be fantastic. This is another disturbing trend that we've seen with AIs, and this is just called being a good neighbor. We've seen the Internet Archive being taken down many, many times, and this time iFixit is the one to call out Anthropic for hitting our servers 1 million times in 24 hours. This is not being a good internet citizen. If I was iFixit, I would have banned all Anthropic's IP addresses. I would have just banned all of them. I don't even care. Like, this isn't about whether they should be training on Anthropic or on iFixit stuff. I haven't looked at their robot.txt, but this is just about not trying to take down people's websites. This is effectively a DDoS, and they should be treated as such. You know your AI is bad when you have to put rewards for people finding the right prompts. Now, like I said, I don't show stuff that you have to pay for, so I'm not going to show you the article, but I will tell you effectively what it goes into. Google is effectively paying with one-time bonuses if you can come up with a prompt that actually comes up with useful data from their AI. that doesn't scream competent, useful product. That screams, this thing is so useless that if somebody can find something useful to do with it, we will pay them money. No, this is for their employees. I don't know if they thought that this would sound like it was a mature product, but to me, this just screams not. But yeah, you can get a golden bomber jacket with like a silver Gemini logo on it. And you can get one-time prize money. So anyways, that's to me, that seems pretty rough. That seems very rough to me. Okay, so now we're getting out of the, I'm just going to call the top part AI drama. We're getting out of the AI drama into like kind of the new stuff that happened in AI this last week. So there was actually quite a bit of things, and we're going to cover probably the biggest one at the very end. You guys know what it is. It's Llama 3.1. But a lot of stuff happened around that time. So OpenAI unveils Search GPT, but that's not all. We've all known that Search GPT is coming. Sure. Google itself has been doing Google search overviews, the AI generated search results. Intel launches the AI Playground, a free and open source generative AI tool powered by Arc GPUs. So if, yeah, cool. Too bad that they're under a huge conspiracy for 2 years of bad CPUs that they covered up. Copilot text completion for pull request descriptions beta is now out there. So basically you can open up a pull request, and if you don't really remember what code you wrote, you can have the AI write it for you, and it will probably just make up something. Fantastic. So let's get to Llama 3.1. Llama 3.1 caused a lot of ruckus. Llama 3.1 is they say open source. I don't think it actually meets open source by open source definition, but it is open for you to see. You can fine tune, distill, and deploy it anywhere. So it is open. I'll at least do that. I won't say open source because I don't think it quite meets the OSI's definition of open source. But it is open. Unlike OpenAI's model, which is kind of interesting. I'm just going to say it. Kind of interesting. Llama 3.1 is out there, and supposedly it's done some pretty big steps. And we're going to try tomorrow to run the 8 billion one on my desktop. We're going to try it. Supposedly you can. I don't know if we can, but we're going to try. I know OpenAI has open in their name. I know that OpenAI GPT like 2 and 2.5 were open. I know. But their 405 billion parameter model supposedly kicks the pants off of just about every other model to date. Now, I'm not rich enough to actually run this model. Would love to own the GPUs to try, but I don't. So we're going to try the 8 billion. We're going to see if we can't get it running. We're going to see if maybe it could do our Twitch alerts, if I said pretty please. I'm kind of excited about that. But Llama 3.1 released a chain reaction. So when you, one thing was this, the 405 billion on your computer using a peer-to-peer network. Now, I don't know how slow this is. We might try it, but basically this is where you all run it, and it sounds horrible, but we might try it, which would be interesting. What I was going to say, though, is one of the things that I feel like was released to combat this is OpenAI released the GPT-4 Mini fine-tuning. So now for free, you can fine-tune the GPT-4o Mini model. And that's actually maybe a pretty big deal. but I'm excited to try to do that for our Twitch alerts. But I feel like this came in response to the llama. I mean, it came after it. So, like I said, feels like it came in response. Then Menstrual basically released their Large 2, which was a very big AI that they were working on training. And the Large 2 is trying to take on Llama 3. So it's another open model. Again, I'm not quite sure it's considered open source, but it's like it. Oh, that was it, right? Wait. Yeah. So that was kind of all the big things. There's some little things now. There were some little things, but I know I'm rushing, and I'm so sorry. I actually have exactly an hour today. Usually I have like an hour and a half. I have exactly an hour today. So I apologize. The news is a little rushed. GPT Builder is being retired. So this was Copilot GPTs that you could use with Copilot Pro if you had Copilot Pro subscription. It's being retired. So Microsoft will remove the ability to create GPTs starting July 10th, 2024. This only was released a little while ago. I'm kind of interested in why they're retiring it at this point. I'm assuming something really didn't work out how they were expecting. You know what sounds more terrifying than anything else? You know, school is a place where you go and you learn. And what would be better than going to school with somebody that just might make crap up? That's what a Tesla and OpenAI exec decided was the best thing to do. This was the best thing to do. It was to create a AI native education and start up Eureka Labs. I'm surprised that they could get Eureka Labs, to be honest. That was very interesting to me, but it's a little terrifying. I think we've jumped the shark. We have jumped the shark. And lastly, Wired lost all my respect. After all of the negative things we've seen from AI, the AI-powered future of coding is near. Is near hogwash. Is near hogwash is what they meant to say. They missed the last word, but that's okay. We'll forgive them for today. Near hogwash. This article is complete garbage and not worth reading because obviously the person that wrote it has never coded a day in their life and has never coded with an AI coding assistant. We have ads that are starting in 15 seconds. Last thing, did you guys know that this Summer Games of AI has a new contestant? That's right. I can use Devin AI in preview. So we are taking Devin AI to the games. We're taking Devin AI to the games. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. I was a little. I haven't read Wired in a long time, but I used to be a big fan of Wired like 8 years ago. And I don't know if I was too naive and just read the articles, and it hasn't been any better or worse. But I have seen whether it's blockchain or, AI, I've seen a disturbing rise of I don't know what I'm going to call them, puff pieces or things like that, where I just think that the people writing them have no idea what they're writing about. They're writing about something that they've been hyped up to by other people, by the CEOs. They listen to Sam Altman. They listen to Satya. They listen to these people, and they're like, this is the thing. But they haven't actually tried it themselves. And I'm calling them out because they're a big player, and like that's all I wanted to do, because I used to value some of their opinions, and again, only calling them out because I think this is not helping anybody. Yeah. Did anybody else see anything in AI that was interesting? Is everybody ready for the summer AI games? I know that they're late. But I meant to do them at the beginning of August. 100% happening at the end of August. Getting a house ready to sell took longer than I was hoping. All right. Ads are done. Anybody have anything else that they saw in AIs that came up? All right. Let's jump into some open source news. I am very happy to announce the hard work of a lot of people that weren't me, but thankfully they're a lot smarter than myself. We have Rust 180. 180. It's like a birthday present to me. It's a few days late, but it was like a birthday present to me. Rust 180 came out. Now, the big features of 180 was the lazy cell and lazy lock. These are they lazy initialize the things happening. Now, I noted that a lot of the times I use them, I feel like it's a code smell. Like I'm actually being lazy. Like this is calling me lazy, and my code lazy. I think that there's probably very useful times when they're actually super useful. I think that I tend to abuse lazy a lot of the time. Other than that, there was just some really nice things. We had talked about this in 179, the checked config names and values. They did some more stuff to that, and then they added the exclusive ranges in patterns. Rust range patterns can now use exclusive endpoints written a.b or .b, similar to the range and range 2 expression types. For example, the following patterns can now use the same constants for the end of one pattern and the start of the next. So this is pretty cool, where you can do like this here. It's nice. It's nice. Cool. So yeah, and then there was some stabilized APIs. So nice work, Rust team. You know what? It was like that. Oh, that's so much better. My apologies. Can't press buttons. Switzerland now requires all government software to be open source. At first, when I was like this, there's no way their defense systems and whatnot are open source. Like, that's what went right through my mind. I was like, there's no way this is actually a true thing. Well, it is a true thing, but if you actually go and read the law, there is a thing that says security-related reasons would exclude or restrict this. So I don't know if this will make a big deal. I mean, obviously, this is going to say, like, probably their OS is going to be Linux instead of Windows or stuff like that. So, yeah. So anyways, this is cool. I like this. It doesn't say data. Just, not that I understand. Doesn't say data has to be open source. Just all the software they use has to be open source. And if they make software, they have to open source that software, which is actually really cool. So if the government makes software, unless if it's security related reasons, they have to open source it. And they can... Right. So I think the big thing is this is for software they make, right? Like, that's the big deal. Now, I think, honestly, it also, the software they use, from what I read, I'm not a legal expert. To me, it seemed like the software they use, they were also pushing for. But again, I'm not a legal expert. This is not legal advice. It's a cool step, though. I like it. But yeah, essentially, I think if they make it, it has to be open source unless if it's security related. I could almost claim everything's security related, though. So, like, this is a pretty big loophole. Like, this is an easy one. If they get laxed with it, they can be like, well, yeah, it's running on our computers. It's security related, right? I mean, it can get pretty crazy. So we'll see. I like the idea, at least. Meteor.js 3 is being released, so if you're on a Next 20 and you're wanting that sweet Meteor.js support on not Next, I said Next, I meant Node 20, or Express, well, now you have it. There you go. Go get yourself a Meteor. Announcing real-world Angular. I'm excited about this. I'm not a big Angular person, but I'm going to post this for you all. If you are, Real World is a project started by this guy, but that basically just has real-world examples of how to make large projects with the different frameworks. And so they basically did one with Angular. So if you're trying to see how things are done and want real-world examples, this is actually fantastic. We should maybe collab and do a real world Rust or something like that. I think that would be cool. Yeah. I think it's cool. You're doing something similar with C#? Maybe, you know what I should do? I should do a real world, where I compile real worlds of different real world lists. I'm a meta real world. I'm going to do Meta Real World, and then Meta's going to sue me, and I'm going to make a stream about how Meta sued me. I like it. All right, I'm going to try to get an interview with the CEO of a tool. I have actually talked to her before, so I think it would be very interesting. But it reminded me, this article here reminded me of those conversations I've had with her. Developer productivity poorly understood, report says. And I think that this is true. 2 out of 3 developers lose more than 8 hours a week due to inefficiencies in their roles, according to Atlassian. This report by Atlassian basically goes into saying that it's really hard to judge how productive developers are, and that it's easy for them to lose an entire day every single week due to this lack of understanding how to effectively leverage and use your developers, which I think is honestly probably true. This is probably true more than just developers, any skilled labor. So the company that I'm talking about, which I have emailed her, is Terra AI. And Terra AI basically does statistical analysis on all of your data of your team. This means pull requests. This means how much was when they did a code review, how much feedback are they giving? Did they just do a code request with or review with a look good to me, or did they actually leave meaningful feedback? It means that, hey, did this person join a bunch of calls to handle customer things? It's a statistical analysis attempt to understand what your engineers are spending their time on, which can be difficult. So I think that this is interesting. Now, it's also slightly creepy, and I'm kind of torn because this type of stuff sounds really, really useful from just a trying to understand, because a lot of the times you don't even understand your engineers are getting their time wasted because this other team is bothering them a lot or something like that. And so it can be very difficult to know that. But I also feel like this is very terrifying as far as coming from a micromanager. This is actually some of the feedback that I gave is this sounds great if you have a great boss. It sounds horrible if you have a terrible boss. And they've actually implemented some of the feedback that I gave them, which is pretty cool. They did this chart where it anonymizes this stuff, but still gives you useful feedback coming back from it. Anyways, it's interesting. So I'm going to see if I can't get her on stream to talk about it and maybe give a demo, because I think that would be fun. Yeah, Apollo. So it does it. You can do it by developer. You can do it by team. I actually don't like the per developer one, actually. Because I don't think that you can compare two developers together. They have different skill sets. But the cool thing is it does look at all of contributions. So your person that's working on the harder bugs that gives a lot of feedback gets contributions from other places than just the number of lines of code. So anyways, it's interesting. And I just thought of that when, I haven't talked to Terra AI people for a year or two. But I was reading this and I was like, this is kind of what they were trying to solve. In other news, advertisers react to Google keeping cookies on Chrome. So Chrome was to retire cookies, and then Chrome said, we like making money, and decided not to. Now, in an interesting turn of events, this doesn't surprise anybody. In an interesting turn of events, Firefox now collects user data by default. I don't want to condemn this without knowing more, and I need to know more. I only got very minimal amount of time to look into this, but it looks very bad. It looks not good on Firefox's part. You didn't use Firefox because you wanted the best browser. You would use Edge if you wanted the best browser. You don't use Firefox because you want you use Firefox because it was the outstanding open source, data protection browser out there. That's why you used it. And if they have this for some way where they're protecting it, great. But if that's not the case, this is a huge blow. Apollo, Firefox media issue is why I use Edge on stream. Tabs and media. It's 100%. Media is atrocious. The Agile Manifesto co-author blasts failure rates reports take up a reimagining project. So there was a report. We talked about it, and this was released with the Impact Engineering book, and I said I wanted to read more about it. Now, there has been a lot going with that, but basically, he took issues with the Agile, with the actual report that was done. But he also takes issue with how how agile is being run to date. And I think that that's a lot of people. I think a lot of people would say that a lot of places aren't actually doing agile. They just dress agile in Scrum or Safe or whatever, and they just run with that because they don't really want agile. They don't want management to understand how development works. They just want to shoehorn it into something that works for them. And we see more and more of this. Humble Game Devs told company is shutting down. Humble Games is claiming it's restructuring, but it basically laid off the entire staff. So I don't know. I've been a huge supporter of Humble Games. So I don't know. I haven't heard anything more at this point other than they laid off the entire staff, which was like 25 people. So I'm going to be keeping you guys up to date. I kind of liked Humble Games, but yeah, that was it for my random engineering and open source news. The last thing is we have a little bit of cloud news. I know. I feel like it's pretty crazy that they did that. I think that this was I'm pretty upset. I think it's I've supported the Humble Games mission with their small devs and supporting smaller games. It's pretty crazy in my opinion. Now, maybe they were just bleeding money this entire time. You know, I have no idea. They didn't release financials on it. Operations are said to be moving to a third party consultancy. But this sounds like they're not canceling the games that are being produced, but they're not going to take on any more. They're just going to let it coast to death. That's kind of what it seems like. So let's do the little bit of cloud news. I have negative minutes left. Negative minutes left. So let's go. Oracle goes massively parallel, low cost with Exadata Exascale. Can you put Exa in there anymore? I feel like Exascale covered the data part. I don't know what an Exadata is. Is that like data that used to exist, but they lost it? I don't get it. They tried to explain it, which I found even more hilarious. The Exa in Exadata was always meant to imply exascale. So you might be wondering what the exascale in Exadata exascale means. What this really means is using the scale of a cloud. What the crap? Oh my goodness, this is just a dumb name. Come on, Oracle. Hire a focus group on naming. Yeah, anyways. Let's move on. Wiz walked away from Google's $23 billion acquisition offer. They're looking to IPO, is my understanding. They decided that $23 billion wasn't good enough and that they could do better in an IPO. And so, you know what? I honestly actually think that this is really good for Wiz because I feel like Google's reputation with the things that they bring in and kill, I mean, the things that they bring in and nurture to death are an issue for them. And so I think that this is probably actually really good for Wiz. Probably. That would be my guess. And the last thing is defending sovereign workloads. Google distributed cloud air-gapped approach to zero trust. I'll let you guys read this. I don't have time to go over it. I don't have the time to go over their defense of the air gap zero trust strategy. I think it's actually light, but a pretty good defense as far as it goes. So I think it's worth looking into. If you guys find it interesting, we'll do a video clip on it. Yeah. Look, Apollo, you can take it that way. You can take it that way. Or you could look at it as like this. Oracle is so overpriced. They're actually draining funds from the project. So they're actually making it so that they can do less, right? Think about it that way. Would you want anybody else that was actually going to empower them with a lower total cost of ownership doing the database? I don't think so. I don't think so. See, they're doing the world a favor. You got to think about this. We're out here playing 6D chess. I'm up to 7D with this, you know. I'm gonna start promoting Oracle because no, I'm just teasing. Anyways, I gotta get going. That was my lunch break. I'm so sorry that I rushed through a lot of that. I know that I did. I am a slave to the circumstances here, and that's what I have. So hopefully next week I get that whole hour and a half, and we get to talk about some of these things a little bit longer, because that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to focus on 5 topics and spend the majority on those 5 topics, and then rush through some of the, you know, littler things. But not today. Anyways, thank you guys so much for joining. I hope that this was informative, if nothing else, and I will see you all tomorrow.